In this video we're going to go through the inventory setup. So I'm in the inventory module here and we're going to expand the setup folder and have a look at some of the things in here. So the first thing that we're going to do is create some categories for our items. So double click that. Okay, now this is another list and detail type box, so I need to click new. Okay, to start creating my categories. So the first category is going to be dangerous toys. If I do save and new, it'll put me back in there to do some more. So we've got really dangerous toys. Safe toys. Computers. T-shirts and bags. Okay, now what we're going to do is create additional categories that will have a parent category of dangerous toys. So it basically shows that we can have subcategories. So we've got guns, and this time we need to change the parent category to be dangerous toys. Save and new. Sticks. Catapults. You can see as I go down the list now, you can see the ones that are under dangerous toys. See how it shows it. Okay, so there I've created some subcategories under that. What we're also going to do now is create even more categories, and this time they'll be in a subcategory of guns. So if I do save and new, and this time we're going to have machine gun. Oops. And that will go under guns. Handgun. Shotgun. Rifle. And ground to air. So there's all our categories set up. Just out of interest as well, save that and go back to the list. Okay, if I look at one of the top categories, such as computers, we'll see that that gets a parent category of default, and maybe you don't want these to have a parent category. Once you've saved the category, you can go back in and let it have a parent category of itself. So now computers has got a parent category of computers, so now it won't actually come under anything, it'll be a base category. Quite important for when you set them up for the web, because you don't want, when people browse by category, to go into default then computers. You might just want computers to be showing as one of the main categories there. It's just quite a useful hint. Okay, now I've finished setting up my categories, I'm going to save and close, and the next thing I'm going to set up is a department. So I've got selling departments in here, and I'm going to create 3 departments. Again, it's a list and detail type box, so I need to click the new button on the toolbar. The first department is going to be called clothes. Again, it gets that parent department of default, but if I save that and then go back in here, I can then say, actually I want it to have a department of its own, so exactly the same thing. So I want clothes, I want electrical, and I want plastic. You notice down here we have the option on the departments to actually add items in. So if I've got some stock items set up, I can actually say tick all the items that I want part of the plastic department, and same for the other departments. So it's a quick way of adding items into a department if you create a new department, for instance. Okay, when I finish setting up my departments, I'm going to do save and close. Next thing I'm going to do is create a new attribute. Now, attributes are basically used for matrix items or like star color size items. Okay, so we need to click the new button on the toolbar here to create a new attribute. And our attribute is going to be called speed, but hopefully spelled correctly. Okay, and then down here I can say what the attribute codes are. So under speed we're going to have slow, we're going to have fast, we're going to have normal, and we're going to have very fast. Okay, and we'll show you how these are used later on when we set some items up. Okay, so we're save and close. Next thing we're going to do is new unit and measure. And our new unit measure is going to be called case. So I set up a description for that, and then I say how many is my case going to be. So how many times the each, which is obviously a singular item, will there be in my case, and a case is going to contain 50 singles. Okay, so when I've set that up, I do save and close. The next thing I'm going to set up is manufacturer. So into the manufacturer option here, and again I need to click the new button on the toolbar, and the first manufacturer is going to be called Guns Are Us. Okay, again I can add items into this manufacturer if I need to. Save a new on that because I want to create a couple more. So I'm going to have Bikes Are Us, and the last one is going to be HAL Computers. Okay, again because it's a list one, I'll just show you. If we go back to list, you can see the ones that we created in there. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is look at multi-currencies and just check that our Philippine currency is actually set to active. So we're skipping about a little bit here, but basically we need to nip into System Manager, into multi-currency, and we need to have a look at the PHP currency. So if I search PHP, because it's the only one it finds, it brings it up, and now we just need to make sure that's active. We have to do this before we can do the next part of the exercise. So now I've made that active, I'm going to save and close on that. And now if I go to setup, not of System Manager though, in inventory and go to selling language, selling currencies, I should now be able to select from the PHP. If I hadn't have made that active in System Manager, then it wouldn't have actually appeared in this list. Only the active ones appear. So then I want to tick that to make sure it's included, and save and close. Okay, now we're going to start creating some different types of items. So if I go into new item, launch is a wizard, and we can choose from various different types of items. We're going to cover a couple of different items in this, but the first one is just going to be a normal stock item, which is our standard type of item really. And this is going to be a handgun item, and the description is just going to be handgun. Our extended description, which is a description we can write quite a lot of text in if we want to. Maybe a description so that when our salespeople come in here, they can see exactly what this item does. Okay, so I fill that in there. Next thing is going to be the units of measure. So we want each on there, which is our default unit of measure, but we're also going to have dozens and cases on there as well. So if I just go on there and select dozens on that line, and I can also select cases on that line, or case on that line. So there we can see dozen is obviously 12, our case is 50. Okay, now we can then give it a category. Our category is going to be handgun. Okay, onto the next screen. The costing method for this is going to be a FIFO costed item. And all the costs are going to be £5. And I'm going to pick 3 random suppliers from here. And whenever we've got a list like this, we can tick multiple ones like I've just done there. And when I click OK, it'll put all 3 in. It's quicker than selecting one and going back in, doing another than another. We always have one as a priority supplier for this item. So basically ticks one of them. We can obviously change that if we want to be another supplier in the list there. Okay, on to the next part, which is the pricing. Now, we should really give it a wholesale and a retail price so that if our business customers are on wholesale pricing, they would get that price, and if we've got consumers on the retail price, they will get a slightly different price. So that's why we've got the 2 different prices in here. So the wholesale price is obviously usually cheaper than the retail. So let's do £10 and £20 in there. Okay, and then I finish the wizard. And there's a couple more things I just need to add in, which I can't do through the wizard. If I go into the setup tab for the item, now that I'm in the main item, we've got a field here for commodity, which is just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and down here we've got options for weights as well. So our weight for an each is going to be 1, which would be kilogram. Dozen is going to be 12, and for a case it's going to be 50. Okay, if I just go back to the general tab, I can double click in here and put an image on my item. So if I go back to my workshop course and to my images, and I'm going to put that belt gun image on, the same one that's actually on my company logo that we put on earlier. So I'm going to put that on there. We can also change other things, any other things that we might have missed in the wizard or that weren't there in the wizard, we can change them all here. Okay, we save and close on that, and we'll go and create another item, which again is going to be a normal stock item, and this is going to be bullets. Okay, so we're going to give that a unit of measure of each and cases. We'll put it in the guns category. This is going to have a costing method for standard costing this time, and the price and the cost of these we're going to put as £1. Again, I'll pick 3 random suppliers. Okay, and then wholesale and retail pricing. We're going to have £3 for wholesale, £6 for retail price. And again, when I finish the wizard, I'm just going to nip it in the setup here and put the commodity code in here. Okay, and again, weights. Okay, so just save and close on that one. I'm going to create another item, which is this time going to be a holster. units of measure. Again, it's going to be, we're going to have dozens this time, and we're going to have cases. That again is going in the guns category. It's going to be an average costed item. I'm going to set these costs to 2, and suppliers, we're going to have 3 random suppliers again. Okay, the pricing on this is going to be £6 and £8. And I'm going to finish the wizard, and again just nip in and do the commodities again. And the weights. Okay, so when I've finished entering that, I'm going to save and close, and I'm going to create another item, but this time it's not going to be a stock item, it's going to be a service item, which is basically a non-stock item really, but we can differentiate between usual non-stock items and what we call a service item, which is obviously for services. So this is going to be an installation 1-day service. Okay, and this is going to have doesn't matter about units of measure on this really. We're just going to go straight to the costing, and this is going to have an average cost, and the average cost of this is going to be 20. And the pricing is going to be 70 and £100. Okay, so there's my item. Save and close on that one, and then go into find items, and I can see the ones that I've put in. We've also got the stock types in here, and we've got tabs along the top for the different types of items as well. Okay, now what I'm going to do is create some opening balances against them items to put some stock effectively in from an opening balance transaction. So in here we say what item we want, so it's going to be handgun first, so I'll do that one. So my first line, okay, transaction date is going to be the 11th of December. Okay, and we're going to put 1,000 in, like so. And we can see the other details. If we scroll along here, we can see it's going to put them into our main warehouse, which is the only warehouse we've got at the moment, into location 1, which is our main selling location. So that's effectively going to input 1,000 of our handguns into that location. Okay, the next thing we want to do is put bullets on. Again, we can copy down, although the F6 button isn't there. I could use that F6 function to copy if need be, but because the lines are different, I'm just going to do it manually. So again, the 11th of the 12th. Okay, and for our bullets, we're going to put 5,000 in. And finally, we're going to put some holsters in. Okay, so again, it's going to be the 11th. And this time we're putting 3,000. Okay, so exactly the same as what we did before. If I save that, it'll post them figures through to the stock, and in the history tab, it shows me the transactions we've done. So there will now be 3,000, 5,000 and 1,000 of them items respectively in stock. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is some importing into our inventory module. Once again, we have to go into the system manager and click on the import wizard. Okay, next on that, we're importing into inventory this time, and we want to import some inventory items first. Firstly, we're going to import some kit items. The next thing, we're going to import the assembly items, and the assembly items ones also includes some opening balance figures on that one as well. So you'll have items along with a one-off sort of opening balance figure against them to put some stock in. And the last one we're going to bring in again for inventory is just opening balances on their own. So we're going to have to amend that file like we did for the customer and supplier ones. So using the second import routine here, I'm going to browse for my kit components one. Okay, into my import files, inventory, kit components import. Okay, next, and start importing. Hopefully that'll all import fine for me. Successful. Okay, while I'm here, I'll go and do my next file. Okay, which is going to be the assembly items import. This is the one with the opening balances on, but we still use the normal inventory items import. Okay, start importing on that. That was successful, which is good. So if I just nip back into inventory and find item, I can now see I've got a lot more items in there. I've got some motherboards, hard disks, and all the rest of it. And some of these have got balances on, such as these. These are my assembly items, and there's my balances that were on that file. Okay, the last file that I want to import is my inventory opening balances. So if I just open that file up in Excel and we'll just have a look at it. Okay, now this is basically our items. Actually, we don't need to amend this file because it's already kindly got the item names in there because we knew what they were going to be. Okay, so basically what this is going to do for each of these items, it's going to bring this many into stock basically, into location 1 of our main warehouse. So I don't need to amend that one after all. So if I close Excel down and go back to my import wizard, hopefully if I go to inventory, this time use the top import routine, opening balance one, select inventory opening balances, next, and start importing. Hopefully it'll bring them in for me. There we go, successful. So that's now put some opening balances against them other items. So if I go back into find item, just to refresh it, we'll see that majority of them have now got balances in, which is what I've just imported basically, so that's good. Okay, the next type of item I'm going to create is a kit item, and we have to bring in the components for that kit item, therefore we could do this. So new item, this time a kit. Okay, and our kit item is going to be a computer kit. Okay, again we've got the standard unit and measures and categories and everything. I'm just going to skip through that, finish the wizard and get straight to the kit details tab. Okay, so again it's opened up, when I finished the wizard there, it's opened up the item as standard, but instead of putting us to the general tab where it would normally be, it's put us straight into the kit details tab because it knows that we're probably going to want to configure the kit for this computer kit item that we've got. Okay, so the first group that we're going to add is for motherboards. So what motherboard? Okay, now here we say whether it's a required group. So a motherboard in a computer will usually be required for the computer to work anyway, so that's going to be required. We could also have an optional one, so if it's something like software, do you want this bit of software with it or not? Or we can have multi-select where it can be, you can have that one and that one. Okay, so for the motherboard we can only have one and it's required, so we're going to have obviously the group type as required. Okay, and then down here we then choose our items to go into it. So we've got a few different motherboards that we've imported, so if I just do a search for mother, it'll bring them up. Right, select all three using the select all button and click OK to put them on. Now I must select which one is going to be our default one, so when someone goes to create a kit, what exactly is going to default onto our order, and in this case it's going to be the 3 GHz motherboard. Okay, now we've added that one. If I go add new, I can now add the next grouping in exactly the same way. So I think it was what CPU. Okay, again a CPU is going to be required. So if I just go down here and search for CPU, it should bring up my CPUs. And this time my CPU 3000 is required. Okay, next one, which RAM? That also brings frame up because frame's got RAM in the middle of it. Obviously I don't want frame, so I won't use select all on that one. Okay, and the 1 gig of RAM is going to be the default one. Hard drive this time. $80 gigs is going to be the default. And finally, monitor. And the 20-inch one is going to be the default one. I've also got to set the manufacturer on this one to be HAL Computers. So the manufacturer is on the Setup tab. I'll select HAL Computers in there. Okay, now save and close on that item now. I'm going to create another type of item, which is a matrix item. Item matrix. And my matrix is going to be called Danger T-shirt. I want it to be in my T-shirts category. And when I click next from that screen, it then takes me into the matrix setup. So again, for this type of item, the setup is the wizard slightly different. So the prefix that we're going to have for this is Danger T-shirt. Okay, the separator could be dash or / or whatever you wanted to, and it shows down here how it'll appear. So Danger T-shirt dash attribute 1, 2, etc. I'm going to leave that as it is. Okay, then here is where we can select our attribute. Now we obviously created speed earlier on. That's not really relevant for our T-shirt, so we're just going to have color and size on that one. And then when we go next, it says what are the attributes that you want for color. Well, I want blue, red and white, so I'm going to select all. And then what's the attribute values for size? I want small, medium, large and extra large, so I'll put all them on. Okay, and then when I go next out of that, it's saying these are all the items that it's going to create for you, and I can untick some if I don't want certain combinations, but as standard I'm going to just leave that go like that. Okay, and next, and then this is where we fill in the usual costs and prices. So this is going to be average cost. It's going to be 5. For that, I'll pick 3 random suppliers again. Okay, and then pricing is going to be wholesale 14, retail 18. You'll notice when I put the price in here, because we set up selling currencies, it automatically uses the spot rate at the moment, and the spot rates are here to basically work out what the equivalent is. So £5 is worth that much of that, and £14 is worth them based on the spot rates at the moment. So it'll work out what the equivalent price is in Philippine pesos is, euros, etc. I can amend these if I want though, so I can say, well, actually, if you buy in euros, you're going to pay 30 euros, not 21. and we can fix a price on euros like that. Okay, so if I next on that and then finish, this looks like a standard item, except we've got an item matrix tab in here. When we go into there, we can see all the matrix details, and we've got this little option here for if someone buys, if we had quantity break discounts where you buy 3 and you get a discount, you could say, does this apply across the whole products in this group? So if they buy a blue large, a red small, and a blue medium, then that can sense them buying 3 items, so they'll get the discount. So that's what that little flag in there is for. Okay, so there's my matrix item. The next item I'm going to create is an assembly item. So again, new item, and I'm going to choose my assembly this time. Okay, and the assembly we're going to create is a bike. So again, we get the usual units of measure, etc., etc. Just going to skip through that for a second, and then we get onto the assembly components part. Now this is basically saying what goes in to make our bike. So we've got the top of the shop, 100 frames, 17-inch wheels. I just go down and pick the items out. We've got some handlebars, some pedals, seat, and some tyres. Okay, so we can put the quantity needed in here. We need 1 frame, we need 2 wheels, 1 handlebar, 2 pedals, 1 seat, and 2 tyres. And we can also put instructions in here, such as bolt that to this, and whatever other instructions you might want to put in here for assembling the item. Okay, so if I click next, now the cost here will come directly from the items, so it's worked out what the costs on each of them items are, and we'll then work out what the total is, so that's okay. There won't be any supplier for this because we're going to build it ourselves. And the last thing is the price, which we're going to do 230 wholesale and 310 retail. Okay, so there's our assembly. It looks like a normal item again, except we've got an assembly tab here that contains all of our details. We can go back in and amend them at some point if we wish to. Okay, next thing we're going to do is go and create a price list. So on the inventory menu, under pricing, we've got a price list option. Okay, and we've got a new button on the top for creating it, and we're going to call it Good Customer Price List. And we're going to put our handgun on. And we're going to put bullets on. Okay, but what we're also going to do in here, so if we want to, just for these items, we can just say what the selling price is straight off the bat. You can key them in, or we can put discounts in there. We can do a few things in here. What we actually want to do in here is set some quantity breaks up in here. So if I click the little plus next to the handgun, it then shows me all the units of measure under there. So I can set up quantity breaks for each unit of measure if I want, with obviously different prices for each. Now what we're going to do is just look at each unit of measure for handgun, and in here we can specify our quantity break. So we're going to say if the customer buys from between 1 and 100, then what is the actual price going to be? So we're going to say it's going to be £9. Okay, if they buy between 101 and 9999999, then they're going to get it at £8. Okay, and when I'm finished with handgun, minimize that again, and then I can go back in later to check that. So then for the bullets item, I'm going to do a similar thing. If they buy between 1 and 1,000, they get a unit selling price of £2. If they buy between 1,001 and 2,000, then they'll get it at £1.50. And if they buy above 2001, so all the way up to 999999, then they will get it for £1.30. Okay, so when I'm happy with that, I can save and close that. Okay, so now what I can do is go and assign that price list to different customers. So if I go back into customer module and into find customer, and I'm going to open up my Toy Customer UK, and along the top here we've got a tab for pricing. I'm going to tick that, select that even. In pricing method, I'm going to say price list, and on the pricing level I'm going to say good customer price list. What I can also do is in the special pricing here, we're going to give it a special price for bullets at £1.10. Now this will override any of the other pricing on there, and we can also do unit break pricing on this special pricing tab as well if we want to. Okay, I'm going to save and close my customer, go back into inventory, and now we're going to have a look at the wholesale and retail pricing. So firstly, we're going to go into wholesale pricing and Momentum prices. We'll just maximize that. So basically, this wholesale pricing is the price list that's getting built every time that we create any items. So all the time when I was creating items, I was keying in a wholesale and a retail price. That basically goes to build this price list in the background. So if we have a look at our handgun, which is the one we need to change, what we're going to do in here for our wholesale pricing is change that to be £11. Okay, for our bullets, we're going to change the price to be £2, and for our holsters, we're going to change this to be £8. Okay, so we can change multiple items at once within here without going into each individual item. We can go in here and change some of the prices. We do exactly the same for retail pricing. So if we go into resale pricing, okay, and again for a handgun, we're going to change selling price in there from 20 to 14. For our bullets, we're going to change it to £3.50, and for our holsters, we're going to change it to £10. Okay, I'll save and close on that. And that concludes our inventory setup. The next video will concentrate on banking setup.